Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Flowers, Alderwoman Flowers, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Ingracia, Alderwoman Young, Alderman Conway, Alderman Ortman, Alderman Vollmer, Alderman Villa, Alderman Arnowitz, Alderman Wessels, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Florida, Alderwoman Behringer, Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Kennedy, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Schmid, Alderman French, Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Ogilvie, Alderman Cone, Alderman Williamson, Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Cruzen, President Reed,
Here.
Alderwoman Flowers, Alderman Moore, Alderman Conway, Alderwoman Howard, Alderman Rhodey, Alderman French, Alderman Ogilvie, Alderman Williamson, Alderman Carter, 21 present.
Quorum being present, I'll ask everyone in the chambers and the galleries who's able to stand to please rise for prayer. Giving all honor to God, Almighty God, source of all authority, we humbly ask guidance in our deliberations and wisdom in our conclusions. Amen. We will dispense with our regular order of business, take up our courtesy resolution calendar. I move for adoption of our courtesy resolution calendar in saying second. Seconded by the Alderman from the 22nd. Alderman from the 25th, I'd like to approach the dais.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today, and I would like to welcome Chris Clark and Cindy Abel up to the dais as well. Every year the LGBT community celebrates Pride Month, and Pride Month is historically kind of dedicated in June throughout the country. And the reason that is because of the Stonewall riots. The Stonewall riots took place in New York, June 28th, 1969. And at the time, it was illegal for LGBT people to, basically exist and have a gathering place and commingle with one another. And the police frequently, would go in and raid bars and establishments that were frequented by the LGBT population. And so the Stonewall Inn was raided by the police in New York, and a riot ensued for 2 days, and kind of kick-started the LGBT movement for civil liberties and civil rights. So, I think it's only fitting that, given that the mayor has proclaimed June Pride Month in the city of St. Louis, that today we recognize just some of the progress that we've had along the way in the last few decades. And it's notable that this weekend we have the Q-Fest here in St. Louis, which is a film festival taking place at Webster University. Chris Clark is here, and he'll speak a little bit more about it. But I do have two resolutions that I would like to present. One to Chris to commemorate the 6th annual Q-Fest that's taking place this weekend, and then also one of the folks that has a film that's being viewed this weekend is Cindy Abel, and her film is really helping LGBT young people to have positive role models in our society and being more open. about that. And so it focuses on some openly elected officials. I'm not one of them, but and other leaders throughout the LGBT community, and really trying to help provide a vision and a dream for young people in our community. So, Madam Clerk, if you wouldn't mind reading the resolutions, I would really appreciate it. Oh, she can't? Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and read them then. So, whereas the 6th Annual Q-Fest St. Louis, presented by Cinema St. Louis and The Vital Voice, runs this weekend, June 6th through the 9th at Webster University's Moore Auditorium, and whereas the St. Louis-based LGBTQ Film Festival, Q-Fest, will present an eclectic slate of 19 films, features, narratives, and 5 documentaries and 9 short subjects, and whereas the participating filmmakers represent a wide variety of voices in contemporary queer world cinema, and whereas the mission of the film festival is to use the art of contemporary gay cinema to illustrate the diversity of the LGBTQ community and to explore the complexities of living an alternative lifestyle, and whereas highlights of the festival include the St. Louis premieres I Am Divine, director Jeffrey Swarz's new documentary about the infamous female impersonator who was director John Waters' muse, and actor-director James Franco's provocative documentary Interior Leather Bar, which is a reimagining of some X-rated footage cut from director William Friedkin's 1981 thriller Cruising. Other high-profile films include the Sundance drama I Do with Jamie Lynn Sigler, the hilarious teen coming out comedy GBF, My Gay Best Friend, from director Darren Stein. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberations to recognize the 6th Annual Q-Fest St. Louis, and we further direct the clerk of this board to spread a copy of this resolution so that these proceedings, and prepare a commemorative copy to that end to be presented to Chris Clark from Q-Fest and St. Louis Cinema. Chris?
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say a few words?
I deeply love the city of St. Louis, and to witness such changes in my recent lifetime, to have someone like Shane be able to serve amongst you equally is quite humbling, and I'm very grateful for the ability to have this. And our Pride Fest celebration will be right across the street. There's amazing changing times, and we thank you very much for your support and acceptance of all my people. Thank you very much.
Sorry. And Breaking Through is the film that's produced by Cindy here, and the resolution reads, whereas in the film Breaking Through, openly LGBT elected officials at all levels, including the first gay U.S. Senator, Tammy Baldwin, share their stories of self-doubt and triumph over multiple barriers ranging from race and poverty to gender and sexual orientation, revealing a deeply personal, rarely seen side in politicians and gay people. Whereas through featuring politicians, it isn't about politics, it's about people who feel fear and shame, yearning to live meaningful lives. And whereas they reveal with surprising vulnerability how they broke through the internal and external barriers to achieve the future that they envisioned. By showing that anything is possible, they impact those from any walk of life who are struggling and seek to prevent them from taking their own lives or living in a repressed, depressed conditions. And whereas Cindy Abel formed Atlantis Moon Productions in 2007 to develop film-related projects that launch conversations and impact popular culture, her first full-length documentary, the award-winning film Breaking Through, was conceived in response to the high number of teens who were taunted because of being gay or perceived to be gay and committing suicide. Having struggled with coming out, Abel knew the importance of having positive role models and wanted to highlight openly LGBT leaders living authentic and fulfilled lives. And I would like to also welcome Cindy to say a few words about her film. You know, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. I've worked on a lot of campaigns for other LGBT electeds, including Senator Baldwin, which is a very, very exciting and momentous occasion for those of us in the LGBT community to finally have an openly LGBT person serving in the US Congress, 200 plus years later in this country. It's a wonderful accomplishment, and I would like to welcome her as well. Thank
Thank you, members of the Board of Aldermen, and also especially to Alderman Cohn for this resolution. This is really fantastic. And as Alderman Cohn said, Breaking Through is a movie, while it features politicians, it's not about politics. It is about showing that in the United States of America, it doesn't matter what your race, your socioeconomic status, your gender, your religion, your upbringing, or your sexual orientation or gender identity is, that the American dream is in fact alive and well. And San Diego City Council President Todd Gloria put it this way: when he was in high school less than 20 years ago, he was told by his social studies teacher, if you ever want to be in elected office, there's one thing you can't be, and that's gay. And he felt his hopes and dreams shatter, except he remembered that there was someone in San Francisco whose name was Harvey Milk, who is widely known to be one of the first openly gay folks ever elected to public office. And so he knew his social studies teacher was wrong. And so he set out, and now, as I mentioned, is city council president in the country's 7th largest city. And he realized that if the son of a maid and a gardener who happens to be gay can get elected to public office in such a large city, anything is possible in America. And that's why we wanted to make this film, so that we could also follow in the footsteps of Senator Tammy Baldwin, as Alderman Cohn mentioned, the first ever openly LGBT U.S. Senator in our country, just elected this past November. As she said, we can't wait for the day where we experience equality legislatively or in our personal lives. We have to make that day. So we wanted young people and not so young people to realize that if we want to live in a world of equality, it's up to us and we can do that. Thank you so much for this resolution.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? I also want to congratulate, but more importantly, thank both you, Chris, and you, Cindy, for working to make this world a better place. We will, it's not just America, but the world is going to be a better place the more tolerant it is. I have my son here, Max, with me, and my marriage to my wife would have been impossible without some changes in the law. So again, I commend both of you for all the work that you've done to this date, and also commend you, Alderman Cohen, for bringing these resolutions forward. We need to see more of them. Let's give them all one more round of applause. Been moved and seconded that we adopt our courtesy resolution calendar. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. With that, we'll return our regular order of business. Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderman from the 23rd.
Yes, I'd like to have as my honored guest today Bruce from the Painters Union, Al from the Firefighters Union, and Celeste from the Realtors. And I believe I got them all over there.
Alderwoman from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. I would like to have as my special guest today David Holmes with the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, Steve Spreck, who is a 16th Ward resident with the Communication Workers, and Anthony Lancia, who's with AGC. Thank you.
Any further introductions? Any further introductions? I have a couple. My son, Max, who's here with me today. Max, could you please stand? Max has interned with me now for nearly 7 years. He's getting older and almost my height now, so let's give him a round of applause. He's a great intern. See Nana out here. I don't know who you're with here today, but Nana, let's give her a round of applause. Thanks for coming out today. And the Alderwoman from the 14th has left the floor, so I want to also introduce Committeeman Harry Kennedy, also as my honored guest. Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. I'd like to have as my special guest today the Amber UE family, the AT&T family, and Mr. Percy Green from Fire, and all those of you who are not anyone special guests. Thank you.
Any further introductions? Any further introductions? And then we also have with us D.W. Muhammad. You guys probably remember Muhammad. He had been around for years. He went on a hiatus. Would you please stand, Muhammad? Let's give Muhammad a round of applause. Welcome back to St. Louis. Alderman from 26.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I'd like to announce my special guest today, Mrs. Williams. She's a resident of the 26th Ward, and she's a native of Ghana, Africa. Thank you.
Any further introductions? Any further introductions? Alderman from the 10th like to wrap us up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, as we gather here on June 7th, this is National Accordion Day. Don't worry, I didn't bring my accordion, because everyone knows the true definition of a gentleman is someone who can play accordion but doesn't.
I like that one. All right. Alderman from the 13th, you recognize on approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to approve the minutes of the May 24th meeting.
Moved by the Alderman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 20th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in sections A, B, and C of the agenda and have been placed in all aldermen's mailboxes.
We dispense with line items 7 and 8. Would anyone like to take any bills off of any of our informal calendars? Would anyone like to take any bills off of any of our informal calendars? We dispense with line items 9 through 10. First reading of board bills.
Board Bill 84, sponsored by Alderman Conway, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the Director of Airports and the Comptroller to enter into and execute a First Amendment to the lease between the city and JetLink St. Louis containing a severability clause and an emergency clause. Board Bill 85, sponsored by Alderman Conway, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the Mayor and the Comptroller and the owner and operator of Lambert St. Louis Airport to accept and execute certain financial assistance agreements offered by the St. Louis Jefferson Solid Waste Management District for the project entitled Airport Food Waste Recycling Project Expansion for a maximum obligation of $25,000 containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 86, sponsored by Alderman Schmidt, and ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into agreements with the National Association of County and City Health Officials for a 2013 Community Guide Capacity Building Demonstration Program funded by Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and authorizing the mayor upon approval of the Board of Estimate and Apportionment to expend any funds received by said agreement to fulfill the obligations of the agreement and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 87, sponsored by Alderman Schmidt, and ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to submit all necessary applications and to enter into agreements with the Missouri Foundation for Health or any other agency, Cycle 3 program, and authorizing the mayor upon approval of the Board of Estimate and Apportionment to expend any funds received by said grants to fulfill obligations of the grants and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 88, sponsored by Alderman Cone, and ordinance pertaining to the collection of funds to assist in the city's efforts to support the restoration of St. Louis City Hall, authorizing the comptroller to establish the City Hall Restoration Fund to help provide needed repairs and restorations to the St. Louis City Hall. Board Bill 89, sponsored by President Reed and Alderwoman Behringer, an ordinance reaffirming the provision of various ordinances establishing a policy for the disclosure of potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill number 90, sponsored by Alderwoman Young, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a development agreement between the city, Cassidy, Turley Commercial Real Estate Services, and authorizing the reimbursement and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 91, sponsored by President Reed and Alderman Kennedy, and the ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorizing the supplemental appropriation amending ordinance 69154, commonly referred to as the City of St. Louis Annual Operating Plan, fiscal year 2012 through 2013, appropriating and setting apart projected excess general fund revenues to address certain expenditures in the general fund for a current fiscal year in the amount of $2 million and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 92, sponsored by Alderman Vaccaro, an ordinance ensuring the compliance with federal, Missouri, and City of St. Louis laws by contractors, participants, and employees on public works projects in the city. Board Bill 93, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance to repeal ordinance 40429 relating to the regulation and restriction of prophylactics. Board Bill 94, sponsored by Alderman Ogilvie, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor and the comptroller to execute upon receipt of and in consideration the sum of $12,000 and other good and valuable consideration, a quitclaim deed to Remise Release and Forever Quitclaim to KAM Investments LLC, certain city-owned property located in City Block 4627, the property known by address 6800 Rear, Manchester. Board Bill 95, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey, an ordinance affirming adoption of a redevelopment plan, redevelopment area, redevelopment project, authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement between the city and City Walk on Euclid for the redevelopment of 100 North Euclid redevelopment area containing a severability clause. Board Bill 96, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey, an ordinance designating a portion of the city as a redevelopment area known as 100 North Euclid redevelopment area pursuant to Real Property Tax Increment Allocation Redevelopment Act, establishing the 100 North Euclid Special Allocation Fund and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 97, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the issuance and delivery of not to exceed $10 million plus issuance cost principal amount of tax increment revenue notes for 100 North Euclid redevelopment project, providing the form and details of such notes and the covenants and agreements made by the city to facilitate the project and payment thereof, prescribing other matters relating thereto, and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 98, sponsored by Alderman Bosley, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 2803 Hadley, containing a severability clause. Board Bill 99, sponsored by Alderman Vollmer, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 5314 Wilson, containing a severability clause. Board Bill 100, sponsored by Alderman Conway, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 4026 through 28 DeTonti redevelopment area containing a severability clause. Board Bill 101, sponsored by Alderman Conway, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 3625 Russell redevelopment area containing a severability clause. Board Bill 102, sponsored by Alderwoman Young, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 2201 Missouri redevelopment area and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 103, sponsored by Alderwoman Florida, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 3915 Utah redevelopment area and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 104, sponsored by Alderman Kennedy, an ordinance amending ordinance 64728 by modifying the terms of real estate tax abatement for the Washington, Vanderbilt, Enterwright, Pendleton redevelopment area. That's the extent of our first readings.
Yeah, I mean, we usually try to ask them. Yeah, it's definitely your
Is that the extent?
That's the extent of our first reading.
Reference to committee.
To the Public Safety Committee, Board Bill 92. To the Legislation Committee, Board Bill 89. To the Transportation and Commerce Committee, Board Bills 84 and 85. To the Health and Human Services Committee, Board Bills 86, 87, and 93. To the Ways and Means Committee, Board Bills 88, 91, and 94. To the Neighborhood Development Committee, Board Bills 99, 100, 101, 102, and 103. To the Housing Committee, Board Bills 90, 95, 96, 97, 98, and 104. That's the extent of reference to committees.
Second reading.
The following board bill was reported out of the Public Safety Committee. Board Bill 8, committee substitute, sponsored by Aldermen and Alderwomen. Alderwoman Young, Alderman Schmidt, President Reed, Hubbard, Ingracia, Ortman, Wessels, Florida, Davis, Vaccaro, Ogilvie, Cone, Williamson, Cruzen, Villa, Howard, Carter, Behringer, Boyd, and French. An ordinance adopted pursuant to the terms and conditions of recently approved Provision A Proposition A, voter initiative, accepting local control and responsibility for the city's police department. That's the extent of second readings.
We will dispense with line item 14, perfection consent.
Board Bill 13, sponsored by Alderman Conway, and an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 3939 Botanical containing a severability clause. Board Bill 14, sponsored by Alderman Conway, and an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 4014 Russell containing a severability clause. Board Bill 15, sponsored by Alderman Conway, and an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 4217 Russell containing a severability clause. Board Bill 17, sponsored by Alderman Ortman, and an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 2720 through 22 South Jefferson containing a severability clause. Board Bill 18, sponsored by Alderman Ortman, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 3016 McNair containing a severability clause. Board Bill 19, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 3931 Gustine. Board Bill 20, sponsored by Alderman Vaccaro, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 5429 through 31 Chippewa containing a severability clause. Board Bill
Some order.
21, sponsored by Alderman Kennedy, and ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 1424 North Vanderventer. Board Bill 22, sponsored by Alderwoman Ingracia, and ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 2632 Russell. Board Bill 23, sponsored by Alderwoman Ingracia, and ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 2309 South Jefferson. Board Bill 25, sponsored by Alderwoman Florida, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 3460 Oak Hill containing a severability clause. Board Bill 26, sponsored by Alderman Schmidt, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 2648 Cherokee containing a severability clause. Board Bill 27, sponsored by Alderman Villa, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for Crondelet Scattered Sites 3 redevelopment area containing a severability clause. Board Bill 28, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 4342 Hunt containing a severability clause. Board Bill 29, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 4350 Shoto containing a severability clause. Board Bill 30, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 4216 through 22 Gibson containing a severability clause. Board Bill 33, committee substitute, sponsored by Alderwoman Ingracia, and ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 2649 Russell Boulevard. Board Bill 36, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 3619 through 25 Grandel Square and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 39, sponsored by Alderwoman Young, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 800 through 802 through 804 and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 40, sponsored by Alderwoman Young, and ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 1301 Wharf Street. Board Bill 41, sponsored by Alderman Cone, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 420 Faison containing a severability clause. Board Bill 42, sponsored by Alderman Kennedy, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 4161 through 69 Olive Street and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 43, sponsored by Alderwoman Florida, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 3802 Juniata containing a severability clause. Board Bill 44, sponsored by Alderwoman Florida, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 3847 Connecticut containing a severability clause. Board Bill 45, sponsored by Alderman Conway, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 3457 through 59 Wyoming and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 46, sponsored by Alderman Conway, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 4122 Botanical and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 47, sponsored by Alderwoman Ingracia, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 2637 Allen containing a severability clause. Board Bill 50, sponsored by Alderman Vollmer, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 5517 through 19 Dugan containing a severability clause. Board Bill 51, sponsored by Alderman Vollmer, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 1924 Edward Street containing a severability clause. Board Bill 52, sponsored by Alderman Ortman, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 1911 Congress containing a severability clause. Board Bill 53, sponsored by Alderman Ortman, and ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 2109 Arsenal and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 61, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey, and ordinance ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for Forest Park Southeast Scattered Sites 1 redevelopment area and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 62, sponsored by Alderman Rhodey, an ordinance approving a blighting study and a redevelopment plan for 4180 Manchester redevelopment area and containing a severability clause. That's the extent of perfection consent.
Alderman from the 13th, you recognize on the motion for the perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for perfection of the aforementioned bills on the consent calendar.
Moved by the Alderman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 11th. In discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We will dispense with line item 16, third reading consent.
Board Bills 5, 16, 24, 31, 32, 35, 48, 49, 57, 63, 64, and 67.
Alderman from the 13th, you recognize on the motion for the third reading consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to third read and final pass the aforementioned bills on the consent calendar.
Moved by the Alderman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Flowers, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Ingracia, Alderwoman Young, Alderman Conway, Alderman Ortman, Alderman Vollmer, Alderman Villa, Alderman Arnowitz, Alderman Wessels, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Florida, Alderwoman Behringer, Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Kennedy, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Schmid, Alderman French, Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Ogilvie, Alderman Cone, Alderman Williamson, Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Cruzen, President Reed,
Aye.
Alderwoman Flowers, Alderman Rhodey, Alderman French, Alderman Ogilvie, Alderman Carter, 24 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion of the Alderman from the 13th and third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Alderman from the 13th, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to reconsider
Third reading and final
third
passage.
reading and final passage on Board Bill 63.
All right, it's been moved. We have to reconsider the whole motion, and then we have to vote them all back because they came in as passed. So it's been moved by the Alderman from 13th that we reconsider the motion for the third reading and final passage because Board Bill 63 needs to be held over for another week. It's been seconded by the Alderman from the 20th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Flowers, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Ingracia, Alderwoman Young, Alderman Conway, Alderman Ortman, Alderman Vollmer, Alderman Villa, Alderman Arnowitz, Alderman Wessels,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Florida, Alderwoman Behringer, Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Kennedy, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Schmid, Alderman French, Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Ogilvie, Alderman Cone, Alderman Williamson, Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Cruzen, President Reed,
Aye.
Alderwoman Flowers, Alderman Moore, Alderman Conway, Alderman Rhodey, Alderman French, Alderman Ogilvy, Alderman Carter, 24 aye votes.
By your vote, you stand the motion of the Alderman from the 13th and reconsider the previous motion of third reading and final passage. Alderman from the 13th, would you like me to place Board Bill number 63 on the informal calendar?
Yes.
Madam Clerk, please place Board Bill number 63 on the third reading informal calendar.
So noted.
Alderman from the 13th, you're now recognized on third reading and final passage.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to third read and final pass the aforementioned bills on the consent calendar.
Moved by the Alderman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 20th. It's been a request for previous roll. Hearing no objection, motion carries.
That's the extent of third reading, report of engrossment, and final passage.
We'll dispense with line item 18, the report of Enrollment Committee.
Board Bills 5, 16, 24, 31, 32, 35, 48, 49, 57, 64, and 67.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix his signature hereto to the end that these may become law. Dispense with line items 21 and 22, miscellaneous unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
Monday, Legislation Committee meeting at 3 p.m. in the Leisure Room. Tuesday, no meetings. Wednesday, Housing Committee meeting at 10 o'clock in the Kennedy Room. Friday, full board meeting, 10 a.m. in the chambers. That's the extent of my announcements.
We also had a couple weddings, and we have to congratulate Alderwoman from the 15th on her wedding. Let's give her a round of applause. Congratulations. Being newlywed. And also Alderman Chris Carter, who is on his honeymoon. Let's give him a round of applause also. Alderman from the 3rd.
Did you say 3rd?
Yes, yeah.
Mr. President, members of the board, anybody that has a bill in the Streets Committee, we will meet 11 o'clock on Thursday. And if you've got a bill that you would like to be heard, tell the president so they can advertise it.
All right, thanks, Alderman. Alderman from the 8th.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. We will have a Transportation and Commerce meeting on Tuesday at 9 a.m. for Board Bills 84 and 85.
Okay. Alderman from the 10th.
Hello, hello. Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, this Sunday, the 9th of June, the St. Louis Jaycees will be having the annual Soapbox Derby running down Mackland Avenue. Come by at noon. The police chief and fire chief will be doing their annual race. If you get the money in quick, we can tell you who's going to win before the race starts. Thank you.
All right, I like it. Alderman from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Tomorrow, the 6th Ward will be hosting a town hall meeting on crime and problem properties. We have the Chief of Police as well as representatives from the 3rd, 4th, 9th Police Districts and city officials representing public safety offices. I'd encourage everyone who's interested to come between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. at the Sheet Metal Workers Hall on Shodo.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I would like to let people know that tomorrow is the St. Gabriel's Picnic, which takes place, and it is all over. It's partly in Francis Park, but if you come to the corner of Nottingham and Tam, you are at the center of it. So I wish everyone can come down and visit the picnic. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 14th.
I would like everybody let me start over. President and esteemed colleagues, I would like to invite everyone out to the intersection of Marginford and Gravois to the Bevo Bash tomorrow, Saturday, from 11 to 3. It's a community sponsored event, and they will have information about public services and just a good old get-together. Come on out.
All right, thank you. Any further announcements? Alderman from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. I wanted to share with you and give a congratulations to the residents of the Botanical Heights neighborhood last night. They had a wonderful ice cream social, and it's our kickoff for the 4th of July celebration. I want to remind all of those who may be listening to sign up to volunteer so that you can come and participate with the 4th of July celebration and have a good time. I also want to remind everyone that Circus Floor is going on. It's a very inexpensive way to have family fun. So I welcome everyone to come and enjoy Circus Floor. We'll be working very shortly on a new neighborhood development plan, so look out for the information. We'll be sending it out in the next 2 weeks and make sure that everyone understands all of the economic development that is going on in the 19th Ward. It's quite considerable and it keeps me busy, but I appreciate it and it's great for the city of St. Louis. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderman from 13, you recognize on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to excuse the Alderman from the 2nd, 17th, 21st, 24th, and 27th wards due to necessary absence.
Moved by the Alderman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 12th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion. That's good. Well, motion carries. Alderman from 13, you recognize on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adjourn the meeting until Friday, 10 a.m., June 14th.
Moved by the Alderman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Stand adjourned.